Warning! Nothing in this video is meant for optimal play. This is theory crafting for fun. Doing what I'm saying in this video is not a good idea.
Except for the part where I tell you to like, comment, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Haha, nailed it.
Fire Emblem Path of Radiance is memorable for a lot of reasons. The story, the fighting mechanics, the skill system, the lagoos, bonus experience, enemy phase, and so many other things. One of the best things about the game for many people is the presence of the Black Knight. He's introduced very early into the story, kills Ike's dad, and throughout the rest of the game becomes a major point of Ike's story and growth for the entire thing. After clearing Chapter 27, Ike is given the Ragnell and a chance to avenge his dad in a one-on-one fight with the Black Knight himself. Oh, and Mist is here too, I guess. But the battle between Ike and the Black Knight is one of the most important battles in the game, story-wise, for not only Ike, but also for you, the player. You've been training Ike throughout the entire game, waiting for the moment you can beat the Black Knight without any help. Your Ike is well trained and he's ready to go. But what if he wasn't? Initially, my idea was to use a 0% growth patch and see if maybe, just maybe, Ike could theoretically beat the Black Knight, but doing simple math shows how impossible that would be. But hey, even if 0% growth's Ike won't work for this, I still have a 0% growths run going on. So a 0% growths run of Chapter 11 is what I decided to use for footage. The Black Knight has 30 defense, but he practically has 35 thanks to the Allen Knight, while Ike, as a 1-1 Lord, has 8 strength. Ragnell has 18 might, and doing some basic maths, we could tell that Ike straight up does 0 damage. The only way to increase his strength at this point would be to use Resolve, a very popular skill combo for Ike combined with Wrath, but that won't work, since Resolve isn't even obtainable until Chapter 27. You don't have time to give the skill to Ike before the big battle. But what about Aether? Well, if he gets Aether every turn and dodges all the Black Knight's hits, which at base is impossible anyway, you just kinda run out of time. But let's see where we can go with this. How much strength does Ike need to damage the Black Knight to begin with? Technically, with stat boosters, he's pretty close at base. To do 1 damage, Ike needs 18 strength, since 18 strength plus the 18 might on Ragnell equals 36 damage. But there's an issue with that. Every turn, the Black Knight heals 6 HP thanks to his renewal skill, so in order to do any meaningful damage to him, we're gonna need a lot of level ups. But here's something that can help us out, the aforementioned stat boosters. These are Ike's base stats with +4 each, since you get 2 of the stat boosters before Chapter 27. Except for HP, since Seraph Robes gives you 7 HP instead of 2. This makes it so that we don't need nearly as many level ups to do damage to the Black Knight. Before we get back to calculating damage though, let's make sure that Ike doesn't get doubled. At this point, Ike has 13 speed and the Black Knight has 27. Given Ike's speed cap is 28, he has no way of doubling the Black Knight, so trying to double him is out. However, if we get Ike to level 11, we don't have to worry about him getting doubled. There's unfortunately no way around this since there aren't any staves that increase speed, plus we're gonna need Mist to heal him anyway. With 10 level ups, Ike now has 23 speed, 22 strength, 22 skill, 20 luck, 22 defense, 27 thanks to Ragnell, and 47 HP. These are the stats that matter. Of course, we're assuming that Ike gets a level up in these stats every single time. If we were playing a game with an RNG like the GBA Fire Emblem games where we could easily manipulate the RN, it wouldn't really be an issue. But you can't manipulate the RN in Path of Radiance, so manipulating it is basically making a save file using bonus experience and then resetting until you get what you want. If for some reason you want to attempt to recreate this, you can use the 100% growth patch, but I'd suggest going for an LTC run instead if you're going to use that. The other problem with 100% growths is that, as we'll see down the line, we can make Ike worse than this. Spoiler. We're almost to the actual battle itself, but one more thing to go before we get there. How do we determine hit and evade? In Path of Radiance, the formula for hit is skill times 2, plus luck, plus biorhythm, plus unit skills, plus the weapon accuracy, plus support bonuses. For the sake of this part of the game, since Ike can't support Mist, what do you mean I can't support his sister? We just need to worry about skill times 2, plus luck, plus biorhythm. Evade is actual speed times 2, plus luck, plus biorhythm, plus terrain, plus support. Again, for the sake of the fight, actual speed times 2, plus luck, plus biorhythm. Actual speed in this game is determined by weapon weight minus strength. If the number is under 0, you don't lose any speed, but if the number becomes higher than 0, you lose that much speed from your speed stat. If a weapon weighed 5 more than what your strength was, and you had a speed of 11, you would have an actual speed of 6. Anyways, back on track. Assuming biorhythm is normal, the Black Knight will have 151 hit and 65 evade. If you want to try something similar to this, I suggest calculating for the Black Knight first, since his stats are always predetermined. You can actually see if you did your math right at the end. Ike is a little trickier, so I'll get back to him later. Per battle, with Ike's current stats, he'll deal 5 damage, since 22 plus 18, his strength plus Ragnell, equals 40, and then subtracting 35, the Black Knight's defense will give you 5, whereas the Black Knight will deal 21 damage. 30 strength plus 18 might on the Alendite equals 48, minus 27, since Ike's defense is 22 and the Ragnell gives him plus 5 defense, equals 21. That's a pretty big difference in damage, but on the bright side, Ike at least finally hits the guy for damage. Ike actually avoids a 2-hit KO here, which is pretty important since it allows Mist to not have to heal him every turn. Helpful for when reinforcements show up for the Black Knight, including a bishop that can heal him. Speaking of healing the Black Knight, unfortunately he heals 6 HP every turn, so if we're gonna beat him as is, we have to rely on skills. In doing so, we also have to avoid the Black Knight's Luna skill, but considering this isn't Radiant Dawn where it deals triple damage and half your defense, it only halves your defense, so Ike could barely tank it. As for Ike's skills, the 2 most popular skill sets people tend to put on him are just Aether and Wrath Resolve, as stated before. Since we're only concerned with the Black Knight fight and not thinking about practicality and only worrying about theoretics, we can get really creative here. Counter, if you can ever activate it, deals more damage to the Black Knight than he recovers each turn. If you pair it with Adept, you could theoretically deal 20 HP to him just on player phase. And then on enemy phase, including the 6 HP he recovers, you could deal 14. Since it only takes 5 skill capacity, Miracle and Aether can be used to ensure Ike never dies. Miracle Wrath Resolve, which isn't possible here, is also fun, mainly for the final chapter. Guard can be used to avoid a counterattack from the Black Knight, period. Guard plus Vantage can especially be fun, since it prevents the Black Knight from attacking on enemy phase. You activate Vantage, hit him, activate Guard so that he can't counter, rinse repeat. Totally viable. Parity can be ran with Aether to eliminate fear of the Black Knight activating Luna, but it deactivates Ike's skills too, so this one won't actually work. And lastly, Tempest would be fun to double biorhythm effects, but only Boyd and Makalov can actually get their hands on it. If it was obtainable by Ike, you would get plus 10 hit, but more importantly, plus 10 evade. Since Path of Radiance uses double roll, the Black Knight's true hit would go from about 96 down to about 85. And that's not taking his biorhythm into account. Alas, all of the above are too unreliable, even for the sake of this video. We're gonna stick with the Titan True. We're gonna test this with Aether, and that's it. Ike without skills can't do it, since he only deals 5 damage, as stated before. The Black Knight has an effective 35 defense, so for the sake of Aether's second hit, his defense is reduced to either 17 or 18. I did some research, and every time I saw Ike activate Aether against the Black Knight, the math was done with 18 defense, so we're gonna assume he has that. If Ike gets Aether, he'll do 5 damage on the first hit, and then a crazy 22 damage on the second hit. The strategy here is actually pretty simple. We just activate Aether either on player phase, enemy phase, or both, and before long he'll go down. 27 damage is a lot. It's almost half of his health. In fact, it doesn't really even seem like we're using too impractical of an Ike. Our current strength is actually pretty close to the Lord cap, in fact. The cap is 26. So what if we changed his strength from 22 to 18? That way he would only deal 1 damage per turn unless he activated Aether. Then Aether would do 19 damage per turn. 1 damage from the normal hit, and then 18 from the second hit. That's a lot lower. We're gonna go with this one. In fact, let's keep this let's make Ike worse train going. How do we make it so that Ike is exactly 1 HP away from being 2-hit KO'd from the Black Knight without Luna? As is, since the Black Knight deals 21 damage, Ike is 5 HP above being 2-hit KO'd. We aren't going to want to mess with Ike's HP stat though, since we could take points away from Ike's defense instead. This would actually make Luna deal less damage. Ultimately, it doesn't really matter which one you go with, but we're just going to go with defense just for the sake of the video. So now, Ike has 18 defense instead of 22. Or technically 23 thanks to Ragnell. The only other stats that matter, skill, speed, and luck, we don't want to mess with all that much so that Ike can hit and dodge as much as he can. So now, these are Ike's final stats. Now that these are all determined, we move into hit and avoid again, which is where the math really starts getting crazy. I mentioned what the formulas were earlier, and even used the Black Knight's shown hit and avoid to confirm that these formulas are in fact true. So now we move on to Ike's hit and avoid, which are in fact not predetermined. Oh boy. For real though, I'm actually a fan of math like this, so I'm pretty confident with these numbers. Ike's hit is going to be 144, and his avoid is going to be 66, my number! Not taking biorhythm into account, Ike has a 79% chance to hit the Black Knight. So actually calculating what Ike's hit and his avoid on the Black Knight are going to be is really easy. You just do Ike's hit minus the Black Knight's avoid, and vice versa for the Black Knight's hit on Ike. Ike has a 79% chance to hit the Black Knight, while he has an 85% chance to hit Ike. These are just the displayed numbers, however. Remember, Path of Radiance uses double roll. For the uninitiated, double roll is when two numbers are randomly generated instead of just one. The average of these two numbers is what's used for the actual hit. So in this case, true hit for Ike is more so around 91%, and for the Black Knight it's closer to 95%. It's pretty safe to assume that neither of them are gonna miss. Not saying you can't miss when the accuracy is around 90%, but for the sake of the video, I think we can just say Ike is not going to miss. Currently, Ike's skill is 22, and since Aether activates on a percentage of Ike's skill, Aether has a 22% chance to activate. A lot of people like to say Ike activates Aether whenever he wants, so the math doesn't even matter. But for the sake of the video, we're actually going to have to rely on Ike throwing Aether out whenever he wants instead of relying on math. 1 damage is just not enough to beat the Black Knight in time if he activates it 22% of the time. So, ignoring Renewal, Ike has to activate Aether 4 times. With Renewal, it would look something like this. Player Phase 1, Ike deals 19 damage. The Black Knight ends with 41 HP. Mist heals Ike back to full. Enemy Phase, the Black Knight attacks Ike, Ike activates Aether, Black Knight is down to 28 HP. Player Phase 2, Ike activates Aether, the Black Knight is down to 11 HP. Mist heals Ike to full and runs away. Enemy Phase, the Black Knight attacks Ike, Ike activates Aether once again, and wins. If you're concerned about Mist not being able to heal Ike back to full HP, you get a Recover Staff in Chapter 18. So as long as she can use it by this point, my Mist normally can, although I say normal as if this is a normal playthrough where I'm not making my Ike as bad as possible for the sake of a video. It should be okay. Now for the fun part. Probability. What are the odds of Ike activating Aether on every turn? Well, like I said, he has a 22% chance to activate it, or 2200ths if you want to be fancy. Using an expert probability formula of literally multiplying the same number a bunch of times, we get this wacky number. To make this less kooky, we don't even have 0.25% of a chance to get this working. And this is before taking Luna's activation into account, but we really want to make this number go even lower. Huh. Actually, what do you know? There's around a 20% chance that Luna isn't going to activate at all, which is almost kind of a reliable number. To get Aether each time and not have the Black Knight get Luna is really low. With these stats on our Ike, there's almost 0.05% of a chance that Ike can come out victorious against the Black Knight. But hey, that's greater than 0! This is also given that Ike and the Black Knight have normal biorhythm and hit everything, but I think it's safe to assume that they will. Double roll is too unreliable to produce true hit results anyway, so this is as good as you're getting. So that's all well and good for Aether, but for fun, I wondered what would happen if you got Resolve in Chapter 26 instead, and actually used Wrath Resolve for the Black Knight. The scary thing about Wrath Resolve, especially in the probability department, is that Ike has to be below 1/3 of his max HP in order for both of these to work. Having your strength, skill, and speed increased by 1.5 on top of having doubled crit is really good on an average Ike, which we don't have. Luckily, the stats he needs for good avoid, speed and luck, are about as good as they're going to get for something like this. So with Resolve in effect, Ike now deals 3 damage. On a brighter note at least, his avoid is now 69 instead of 65, giving the Black Knight a displayed hit of 62, which is about a 71% chance to hit. Ike has a 100% chance to hit, of course. So given that Ike crits on every attack, he deals 9 damage. Combining player and enemy phase together, he deals a combined 12 damage per turn. Mist cannot heal Ike here, or else he loses Wrath Resolve, so all she can really do here is kill the turn 3 bishop and run away after that. In 5 turns or 10 phases, Ike will defeat the Black Knight. This is actually really convenient since you only have 5 turns to beat him. Or it would be if Ike didn't need the first turn to get into Wrath Resolve range. he's only dealing 2 damage on turn 1. By that point, nothing you can do can kill the Black Knight. Unfortunately, our worst possible Ike can't do it with the theoretical Wrath Resolve. If Resolve was around, it would definitely be possible with an Ike that could actually deal damage, but as is, for our current Ike, we need Aether. And even with Aether, we have an astronomically low percentage of a chance to get this done. This is why I chose to have gameplay of some random chapter in the background instead of me actually attempting this. It's really not possible unless you have insane luck, a lot of patience, and safe states. I'd love to see someone beat the Black Knight with these stats, but as is, I'm just happy that it's actually possible to do it at all. I am aware that you can make Ike's stats even worse and just pray that you activate Aether each turn, but even I have my own standards, and I figured that without Aether, Ike dealing 1 damage was good enough. If you want to know how I got my information so you can try to do math like this yourself, your best resources are Serenus Forest and the Fire Emblem Wiki. They had everything I needed to make this video. Not only that, but I also had a lot of help from my script editor. I'm confident in my math, but not my proofreading. He really helped me out and made sure this mess of an idea could actually be turned into a workable script. That said, a lot of the Path of Radiance exclusive stuff I actually know from memory because I really love this game. And I have a few ideas for videos and challenge run conceptions, I guess, for Path of Radiance. If you want to see more, leave the video a like, subscribe, and ring that stupid notification bell, and leave a comment about why Path of Radiance is so great. And trust me, there's way higher than 0.05% of a chance that I'll see your comment. But until next time, I've been Kirby Fan. Thank you all so much for watching.